What's going on there, guys? We back with another one, and today we have to talk about Gilbert Arenas and Shannon Sharpe speaking about Kevin Durant and what Charles Barkley said during All-Star Weekend about Durant not being a leader. We're going to look back at those comments. Now, the narrative about Kevin Durant not being a leader started when he left OKC to go to Golden State. There was always questions whether he was the leader or Russell Westbrook was the leader, but you felt like, back then they both had their different styles of leadership. And it was clearly their team, right? With Kevin being the number one option. And at times you felt like Russell Westbrook would take shots or make decisions when the clear option down the stretch was to go to Kevin Durant. That was everybody's gripe with his time in OKC. I don't necessarily think it comes from the fact that he left OKC. It's really just the team he went to. And what further justified, people feeling like he's not a leader is what happened in Brooklyn, especially with Kyrie and all this other stuff. Now, some would say that was beyond his control, but hey, it is what it is, right? People see what they see, but we're going to listen to these takes, and I'll be back at the end of the video to break it down. Let's check it out.
I wanted to be KD, but he's not doing it. To me, it's got to be Booker. He's got to be your mental leader and your vocal leader to a certain degree. No disrespect to Kevin. Kevin's a follower. He's not a leader. He's proven that on all his stops. Booker's a hell of a player also. I think he's going to have to take the initiative and take this Sun team to the next level because, man, Kevin's a hell of a player. I ain't never going to say anything bad about him, but I'm saying the same thing with Boston. One of you guys has to step forward. He has to step forward. And for me, for Phoenix to be successful, it has to be Booker.
Some Pippen did. Last time we checked, you was following the Jordan too like a little hoe, right? Everything Jordan did, Barkley was there. Let's go back to your history. He wasn't getting the money that he was promised in Philadelphia, so he didn't even want to be there. Now, he asked for a trade. The team he wanted to be traded to, the team that went to the championship the year before that, which was the Portland Trail Blazers with, Drexler and them. He wanted there. They rejected his ass because they didn't want no parts of Charles Barkley. So Charles Barkley goes to the Phoenix Suns, which if you look at the Phoenix Suns record at that time, they won 50-something games every year, 4 years straight. He was just plugged in, and he went to the finals and won an MVP because how good that team was. So he was chasing the ring himself, even back then. Then he went to Houston Rockets, and the reason they failed because he was overweight and out of shape. This grudge with Kevin Durant, you need to look back at yourself and look back at your career. You was not a man on your own. Yeah, you had the personality, but there's nothing in your resume that had you as someone who was leading something.
Your response to what he was able, what he put out?
I just feel like a lot of people that's on TV that don't ever come to the gym, don't ever come to games. It's hard for them to speak on what I do when they're not in here. So it's just part of TV, that they needed something to fill the segment up, so they talk about some negative shit, but if you're not in the gym, I don't respect your opinion. You're not in the gym with me. That's just what it is.
Barkley calling someone a follower with his background. Sometimes the older generation forgets who they were when they played, so they're calling players something that they were themselves. Charles Barkley's resume didn't scream out leadership either.
So what am I supposed to do when Kevin Durant went to Golden State and said, I'm not a leader? If Gilbert Arenas tell me out of his own mouth, he's a liar, but then when I say, well, Gil lied. Yeah, I lie, Shannon. Yeah, of course, Unc, I lie. But I don't want you to say that I lie.
Yeah.
And I think that's the confusing part people are having with Kevin Durant, because we've heard him say on numerous occasions that I'm not a leader. And then when people say, well, Kevin Durant's not a leader, he's a follower, he's like, yeah, I'm not a leader, but I don't want people to say that I'm not a leader.
Yeah, so we've heard Kevin Durant say he's not a leader before. We've heard him describe himself as a hooper. That's the way he says, I just hoop, man. That's what KD's answer is when he hears the noise around his name. And I would say that's a perfect way to describe him. Elite skill set, something we've never seen as far as the tools that he has. Can score so effortlessly at times. But as far as the leadership piece, I think the amount of teams he's bounced around on in the last few years, I think he was growing into that in the OKC. They listened to what KD was saying, back in those times. Get me the ball, they get on the ball. And you could see like the guys galvanized around him and Russell Westbrook at different times in the game. So he was growing into that. He was so young, early on in his career, but what did he give him, 8 or 9 years? But around that time they were listening to KD, and then he bolted, he left, and ever since then, when he goes to Golden State, Draymond is their vocal leader. Steph, he's vocal at times, but I would say he's their lead by example leader, right? Him and Klay Thompson. So that just, KD's role was just to come in and showcase his elite ability. He never really had to lead anybody because you had the shell of a team that was going to the finals anyway. What Gilbert is saying about Barkley, Phoenix, really good team with Kevin Johnson, Thunder Dan Marley, and all those guys. But if you look at it, Barkley put them over the hump, right? If KD would have went to that type of situation and put a team over the hump, nobody would have said anything. It wouldn't have been like going to a team that had already won a title, the team that just bounced you. You know what I'm saying? Don't forget that, Gilbert. So it'd be an equivalent to like Barkley, even though I think Jordan retired after the Barkley title. Hypothetically speaking, say if he would have stayed, it would have been like Barkley leaving, in 92 and going to the Bulls had Jordan stayed, through that next season. So it's not the same thing, no matter how Gilbert Arenas tries to make it. Barkley, he did lead those teams. Him and Kevin Johnson. I don't want people to leave Kevin Johnson out of that because I think he gets overlooked a lot of times when we have these basketball conversations. But, KD, I think, and then, so let's go back to KD. He's in Golden State. He tears that Achilles with the Warriors, not having to be a leader. Him and Kyrie meet in Brooklyn. You have another guy that's had trouble with leadership. So you kind of got two guys that's still trying to figure leadership out in a new place. And it just kind of falters, some of the things, some of the decisions Kyrie made, whether you agree with him or not. He didn't play some of the games where he was healthy, but, he was taking a stand for different things. KD, again, just out there hooping, showing his elite ability. But it showed against Boston in the first round. They got bounced relatively easy. He goes to Phoenix that first year, and, it doesn't work. Now we're just trying to see, Booker would need to be the leader of Phoenix because he was already there. That's his team. New guys is coming in. It takes somebody with a strong personality, very vocal like LeBron James, to be bouncing around and leading like that. KD, if you look at his ability, you would say he's the leader of the team. But inside the locker room, that just ain't his thing. And that's okay. A lot of times I like to see players like that have a leader in place. It worked out for Kawhi that first year he went to Toronto because Kyle Lowry, it was kind of that for those Raptors teams. He was able to speak. He's a true point guard that, leads by vocal, leads with his voice, and also, with his hustle plays and different things like that. It's infectious. So Kawhi was just able to come in and lead by example with his play, and it kind of was a seamless transition from San Antonio to that, to that team. I don't know if I agree with Gilbert saying that Barkley extreme of not leading is like KD's extreme of not leading. I think that's just a hot take for now. Barkley was a leading scorer on the Dream Team. he's a big time player, at the time. Around that time he's talking about with Phoenix, Charles Barkley was a big time player. Now, when he got to Houston, it was over. That's not joining up with no super team. Nobody is looking at KD at this point. Yeah, well, I have seen some people look at him and say this, but nobody's like KD is ring chasing now, because he's older and he tore his Achilles. So common sense would tell you, okay, at this point, he's not going to carry a team, and try to go be the guy, the clear number one guy without a 1B on the team. Not at this point, right? Nobody's looking at him like that. It's just the steps he skipped along the way. Chuck didn't win any titles. He wasn't ring chasing in Phoenix. That's false. He landed with a good team and gave them a chance to win a title. But as you saw, the Houston Rockets came out the West, the next few years after that. Then, the Houston Rockets went back to back. Who came out? Was that? Am I tripping? Feels like it was Sean Kemp and those boys that next year. And then it was Stockton and them twice. When Jordan won back to back on them. So that's what it was, man. I ain't gonna hold you too long though. Let me know what you think about it in the comments section. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Till next time. Peace.